Before discussing the flaws of universal basic income, or UBI, we must set straight a few myths about the rise of the American middle class. The so-called rise of the American middle class only occurred after World War II and lasted only about 25 years, until the 1970s. It was the result of five factors, all of which have been under attack since the early 70s, thanks to the implementation of Milton Friedman's neoliberal insanity. Those five factors were: number one, the GI Bill, which initiated taxpayer-funded college for ex-servicemen. Because of the draft, military duty was virtually universal, and the GI Bill applied to almost every male in the U.S. Number two, a progressive income tax rate that culminated at roughly 90% at the highest end of the income spectrum in the late 1950s under Eisenhower's Republican administration. This tax rate helped fund the GI Bill, and this fair and reasonable tax rate did nothing to stop the rich from getting richer, and it relieved the middle class tax burden, contributing to its growth and stability. Number three, reasonable property values and tract housing that made buying a house more affordable. Number four, the rise of union membership, which began during the war and continued after, which initiated higher wages, better working conditions, and more substantial benefits like medical insurance and pensions. These pensions were funded through equal mutual employee and employer contributions and bank interest instead of through high-risk stock market investment ventures, which is how they're usually funded today. These measures created employment security, steady long-term employment, and a strong company loyalty among the workers. Unionization was a major factor that fueled the growth of the post-war middle class. Equalism is anti-union in that it rejects large unwarranted union dues that make millionaires out of the top union leaders, but it's pro-unionization in that it achieves good wages and benefits and job security. Get rid of the millionaire union bosses and unionization would be excellent. Number five, minimum wage laws that went into effect mainly in the 1960s and protected non-union workers against the ravages of inflation. All of these factors contributed to the financial sustainability and even occasional betterment of the single-income family unit. And today, thanks to the mass implementation of Milton Friedman's irresponsible advice that we return to neoliberal laissez-faire economics, all these factors now have little effect, aren't being utilized, or are virtually non-existent. Since the draft ended, the GI Bill applies to much fewer people. Since the Reagan era, union busting has been a top priority of the GOP and the neoliberals. Property values have skyrocketed, turning the average cost of homes from around 20 grand to about 200 grand, and turning mortgages from 15 or 20-year commitments to lifelong burdens. And the minimum wage is never allowed to keep up with inflation. All this resulted in the requirement of the two-income family just to stay afloat. The tax rate on elitist incomes and corporate profits have been reduced to all-time lows, tremendously increasing elitist wealth while reducing labor income by shifting the tax burden to the middle class. Since the Reagan era, elitist wealth has increased some 500%, while labor wages have struggled to remain stagnant and has even decreased in real value. And if it wasn't for the debt industry and the double or even triple income family, living standards would be decreasing even more. So any appearance of what's left of a stable middle class is just an illusion created through debt slavery, longer working hours, and a multiple income family. Thus, the working poor are now again the norm. The rise of the middle class was short-lived, sabotaged by the elite through fascist capitalist economics, and the working poor has returned to its original pre-war reality. The point of all this is that as long as the elite are allowed to rule and dictate economic and public policy, any and all efforts to maintain a strong middle class and eradicate poverty will always be under threat, corrupted, or dismantled. So, how does any of this demonstrate the flaws of UBI? Alaska has implemented a variation of UBI. It's socialized, at least to some extent, some of the profits from its in-state oil industry and distribute them annually among their adult citizens. It takes this income and invests it in the financial markets and periodically distributes that money back to the taxpayers. Minimum wage is also a form of universal basic income for workers. Let's examine how effective both of these measures really are. Both of these UBI variants are horribly flawed. Universal basic income is a capitalist solution to a capitalist problem, and there's two main problems with it. First, investing the UBI fund in market speculation as Alaska does makes the results fluctuate wildly and extremely unpredictable. Furthermore, what if the funds to pay for the program are invested unwisely? The elite are prone to invest worker pensions in high-risk investments that often go bust while investing management pensions in stable low-risk ventures. Why would UBI be invested any differently? As long as the elite control the hows and wheres of investing the UBI fund, it will always be under risk of wild fluctuations and market sabotage. Second, UBI will lead to greater inflation as the elite counter the measure with higher prices to retrieve the money taken from them through their taxes to fund the program. This is what happens with minimum wage. Capitalist systems are designed to automatically counteract the effects of any such measures. Inflation is one ploy the elite use to render such measures useless or in a constant state of catch-up. It's a capitalist concept to adjust prices to increased wages, making the higher wages virtually ineffectual. This keeps the real value of wages stagnant while substantially increasing elitist profits and wealth. Any UBI will be in a perpetual need of adjustment to meet the inflation, which in turn will just again be adjusted to counteract the UBI adjustment. It's a vicious perpetual cycle of pursuing economic equilibrium that labor and the poor can never attain. In case you haven't noticed, inflation is designed to outpace wages. This is how capitalism works and why there are no capitalist solutions to capitalist problems. Before the Industrial Revolution, inflation rates were steady at about 3 to 5% a century. After a mere 200 years, the Industrial Revolution, the establishment of the Fed, all centralized national banking systems, and the promotion of the consumer-based economy, inflation rates have soared to about 2 to 3% a year. The reason UBI may seem to work in places like Finland is because they put in place strict price and inflationary controls, which Friedman and the neoliberals would never condone and are themselves just pseudo-solutions capitalism isn't designed to sustain. Socialism, real socialism, is the only solution to the perpetual problems created and perpetuated through capitalism. Equalism says, history has shown there's no capitalist solutions to capitalist problems. Each so-called solution just leads to a host of additional scams. Some might say UBI can be used as a temporary program, a pathway to achieving permanent real socialist solutions. But sliding fee scales are a better, less corruptible solution. But even this is a capitalist solution. Neither of these ideas, if ever implemented, would evolve into something better. History has demonstrated time and again that capitalist programs degenerate into self-perpetuating disasters rather than evolving into better programs, as demonstrated by minimum wage, the GI Bill, the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, and the Student Loan Program, and many other capitalist programs. Once implemented, they're almost impossible to improve or get rid of, even after being proven to be inadequate and even harmful to society. There simply are no capitalist solutions to capitalist problems. Each solution just opens up the door to 5 more problems, 10 more scams, and countless additional opportunities for elitist corruption. The only way to solve capitalist problems is by removing the elite from power. They're the ones who profit from these problems they create. So join the equalism movement and let's fix this mess the elite have made for us. The only real solution is real socialism. It's sad that I must qualify the word socialism with the word real. But the conservatives on the right and even many progressives on the left misrepresent what socialism actually is. Socialism is a non-monetary economic system. It's based upon mutual cooperation, mutual contribution, and mutual benefit. If you need something, you go get it. If you have something you no longer need, you give it back. You return it to the social cycle to be used by those who now need it. And based on the principle of full employment and proper implementation of mechanical and computer automation, fewer work hours will be needed from your work contribution, giving you more free time to actually live your life rather than devoting your life to a lifetime of wage slavery to pay off the debt you've acquired to live. Technology, if properly utilized, can be used to achieve these goals. Generation after generation, the elite sold us their technology and automation with the promise that it would free us from hard, arduous labor and allow us more time to enjoy our lives. But the elite lied as usual. Instead, with each generation, the elite have used their technology and technological products against us rather than for our benefit. They've used it to increase materialism and consumerism, reduce jobs, lower wages, spy on us, and connect us to a global interconnected police-state grid. This isn't what we were promised. This isn't how it was supposed to work. And it doesn't have to be this way. We don't need more flawed ideas like UBI. What we need is economic justice. And the only way to achieve this justice is through equalism, through removing the lying, thieving, profiteering, authoritarian elite from power, dismantling their totalitarian police state, and creating a society where technology is used for the betterment of all humanity. So wake up, join the equalism movement, wake up others, and let's unite to make a better, more efficient, and more functional world. Resist, refuse, revolt.